A very good evening and welcome to this edition of the Fourth Estate. Charles Mongu Shampagi, and tonight we continue the discussion around what is happening around the presidency and State House. Seems to be the center of intrigue in a space of 2 days, of Saturday and Friday, I think a bit of Thursday. We saw two contradictory announcements. One was announcing a cabinet reshuffle that was never there, and another was announcing the death of a senior minister who was not died. Last week we discussed what is happening around State House and what appears to be intrigue that is playing out largely on social media. Tonight, let me start with the lady who's been introduced here, who's been described as the embattled presidential assistant. Is it presidential assistant? Is that the title?
Yes.
Presidential assistant on the media?
For communication.
Sarah Kajingo. Sarah, most welcome to the Fourth Estate.
Thank you, Charles.
And Sarah was a guild president at Makerere University, officially the second female guild president of Makerere University, but the first to win a competitive election at the campus. My colleague Chris Obore needs no more introduction. Chris, always a pleasure to have you.
Thank you, Charles.
At this rate, how far do you think we shall go discussing intrigue around State House and President Yoweri Museveni?
And I think last Sunday I ended up telling you, if there's any place you should not admire to work in, it's the State House. Today you are bringing the intrigue, and you are bringing children of the revolution. Let them tell us why they perpetuate intrigue.
Okay, let me introduce the one you've introduced. You've described as child of a revolution, Hussein Kashirinje. Very nice to have you.
Thank you, Charles.
You worked at State House and apparently you also ejected in some unsavory ways.
No, I was not ejected.
You were?
No, I'm not aware.
How did you exit?
He was tormented.
I had my own battles, and I fight my wars.
Okay. And Obed Katurebe. Obed works at the Uganda Government Media Center. Obed, very nice to have you.
Thank you, Charles.
Let me start with Sarah, because you've been at the center of the news. You announced a cabinet reshuffle that was never there. You announced the death of a minister, Abraham Biandala. He's very well alive. People asking questions, what's going on?
Yes, of course. You know my nature of work. You've been online. Many of our young people are online. I would never make announcements of a death that has not happened. I'm not a relative of Honorable Biandala. I'm not in charge of announcements of death. But of course what's been happening, I've been following radio talk shows of one of my colleagues who says he has information that I undermine the president with one of the senior members of the NRM party, that I'm about to announce that the president is sick, or that he's dead, or that he's run away from the country, or he's not interested in the presidency. Of course, this is laughable. Why would anybody announce that the president is sick and he's not? You announce that Honorable Biandala is dead and he's not. But so when I saw...
Did you also offer those two pieces of communication, the specific ones, the ones of the one of a cabinet reshuffle, yes, and the one about Abraham Biandala? Because it appears it came out of your own Facebook wall, and you're a member of the NRM, I think, NRM think tank or something, WhatsApp group and stuff like that.
No, actually I saw it on the official NRM Facebook page.
That is the one of the cabinet?
No, the National Resistance Movement Facebook page, the official and verified one, and several WhatsApp groups. But I was, of course, able to note that the English used is very bad. Instead of chief whip, they had written chief wipe. That cannot be attributed to the president. You can see clearly there is a standard way of communication. The president does not communicate reshuffles through WhatsApp, but the NRM official media platforms on Facebook had this so-called cabinet reshuffle. So as usual, because I decided to occupy this space on social media to counterlize, but not with a communication strategy of denials and blame games. I thought that if I communicate in real time, instantly, then whoever is generating lies is invented. So what I did...
Help our viewers understand exactly what is happening around the presidency. You've been involved in so much controversy, and people asking themselves and saying, what is going on?
Of course, but...
Sarah Kajingo is at the center. You are a presidential assistant on communication. There is Tamale Mirundi. He's a presidential press secretary in charge of print media. You have Linda Nabusai in charge of... no, the other one is in charge of radio. And then the other one is in charge of print. You have very senior civil servants working around the presidency. You have the media center where Obed works. And the information is so uncoordinated. It's showing a lot of infighting. Maybe let me put this question to Chris Obore. Chris, when you hear all this, what exactly is going on? Because that's the question everybody is asking. And no one, either in government or around the presidency, is giving an answer that seems to tell us exactly what's going on.
Is it the Budonians who say Gacha Limabaga? Is it, what does it mean in English?
Let's
More is what?
yet to come.
More is yet to come. I think we are yet to see more of these kind of things, because it is now the outcome of what we have been discussing all along. You know, when you talk about meritocracy, people think it is an academic word. Meritocracy has a place in harmonizing society. So, if merit does not exist right at the pinnacle, and that is the state house of a country or public service, you then begin to see this kind of situations coming. And I am looking at it as basically a result of institutions dying, that social media groups, not the Ministry of Information, even has the mandate to announce certain things, not even a media center that has been created and funded by the taxpayer, that is supposed to be formally the one communicating president's government position. The media center is also working in its own. Sometimes things in the State House are communicated without media center, and that's very dangerous. So people like Kajingo now try to come up to fill the gap. They are given the job, but what they don't know is that State House is already immersed in that modus operandi. It's jostling. It's not work. You get to State House, the presidency is where everything good individually comes from. If you are working with the president, you can cut a deal, give away wetland. If you are working with the president, you can create another DC, get a tender. If you are working with the president, you can go to a hotel, eat food, and go away.
I didn't know how DCs give tenders.
I mean, they will threaten whoever gives the tender. Don't say they don't give it. They have the power. They supervise. They represent the president. So now, working with the president becomes so lucrative. But there are people who have made it permanently their home, like the president has done. So it is him, and there are those who have grown. Majority of them very incompetent. How are they selected? The president goes to Nuero and says, oh, this old woman gave you matoke. You remember, hey, the child is here, senior 6. Come. President assistant in charge of whistleblowing. Then he goes to another one, goes to Gulu. You know, there has been war here. These are orphaned. Oh, yeah, my sister is in charge of northern Uganda. Then he doesn't ask, what do you have? What competencies do you have? But these guys come here, what do they do? The competence is poko. Talking about the president, Muzee, Papa, everything around that. Now, if Sarah comes in, you upset the status quo. Because when she came, nobody knew. It is Zimbabwe who was on top in kind of social media. But when she came immediately, things began happening. People didn't know her meeting her for the first time. Things began happening here, there, and it caught fire. But if people are set up to eat, you're disrupting eating. And I think this one came very overzealous. The same thing in the cathedral, I keep telling them. When you come very overzealous, that you, Muzee...
No, you come with a lot of zeal, not overzealous.
Yes.
Overzealous has a negative connotation.
Yeah, you become overzealous actually. For what is overzealousness? You want to tweet it on spot, you want to do this on this. There are people who want to make money from that kind of arrangement. Who are you who thinks you can be everywhere? So you are bound to cause problems. And remember, President Museveni operates in a guerrilla tactic. Whatever is happening in State House is how he has designed it. All those who are working with him must be fighting, must be quarreling, and they all report it to him. In the State House, Charles, those assistants work. Nobody wants his drawer open. They keep watch. Should they pick Kashilingi's stamp? Before he realizes someone has made 100 million out of the scam and they are reporting Kashilling, you see?
Okay.
It's extorted. So everybody there, even the tea, they can't take in a group. That's how bad it is in the State House.
Let me come to Hussein before I come to you. Hussein, you worked at State House. The amount of intrigue that seems to be emanating out of that place is incomprehensible at this stage. Because if it goes to the level of announcing a senior cabinet minister dead, and it's not because of the minister's troubles or because he has an issue, but because people are fighting each other internally, there must be, the center is not holding. Because some people say President Museveni has been effective in controlling the military. It cannot stage a coup, it cannot do anything because he knows how to manage the military. But the civilians around him seem to have run amok, out of control. Was that your impression when you sat there, and now looking looking from inside from the outside? Does it look like something is fundamentally wrong?
I think if you interviewed Kano Sirongaranga, late Sirongaranga, about State House, he would tell you the same thing. If you interviewed Mrs. Magezi Joan, she will tell you the same thing. If you interviewed Honorable Amelia Chambade, the same thing.
What is that same thing?
The intrigues you're talking about. This is a president's home. It is a palace. These are palace politics. That's what happens. That's what happens where there is a king and he is the one who discharges groceries. That's what happens. And whether it is going to stop, whether it's going to improve, it is not going to stop, because this is how power works around the palace. The only thing that people need to do is, and of course I disagree with Chris, to say that it is full of incompetent people. I don't think that's correct. In fact, to the contrary, it is full of people whose potential is not being utilized because people are not working at optimum capacity, not even anywhere.
Can I ask you a question?
They are not. So
Can I ask you a question as you continue? What is the qualification of Brigadier Nalweso?
it depends on what she's doing.
I'm saying, what is her position? She's an advisor. What is her qualification?
She's an Army General.
What is the public service regulation for you to become a president advisor? Do we have the rules?
Yes.
What's our qualification? I don't know. I want to know.
Let me educate you, Chris.
Let me just ask this question. Chris, are you trying to imply that an academic qualification qualifies for competence?
You see,
Or
the
substitutes for
country,
competence?
the State House, much as the president's home, is funded by us. And there are rules of public service engagement. It is not a personal firm.
Okay.
You get the point?
Charles, let me just give you an insight into that. You see, Chris has to understand State House. There is a State House and there is President's office. State House is the private office of the President.
Funded by us.
Excuse me.
Yes,
Yes, of course, he's the President.
So it is public.
So this is his home. Okay? Now, then you have President's office, which is the official office of the President. Now, under the Constitution gives the President powers to appoint such persons to assist him in his private office or home. And those are the ones they call private secretaries.
And they have minimum qualifications.
Excuse me. No, those qualifications are not in the Constitution. It depends on what the president wants. So if the president wants an advisor on security and he's looking for an army general or something, so Brigadier Nalweso qualifies. If he's looking for a legal assistant, then Hussein Kashiringi qualifies because he's a lawyer. If he's looking for a social media consultant, communications advisor, then he picks on Sarah because of her competencies. Sarah was picked because she was doing this before.
Okay.
She was not engaged and then started doing the work, but she was identified because she was already doing it on voluntary basis.
I want to pick up.
So it is not true, Charles, for Chris to say that State House is full of people who are incompetent. That's not correct. To the contrary, the people at State House are not given the time to perform.
Let me just ask one question to Obed. We take a break and then we can pick up this discussion in a bit. Obed, the media center was established to streamline communication around government. It allowed itself to get married into communicating for the NRM as a party, and drawing the lines has become difficult. Actually, with the media center, we have another institution that employs people from the taxpayers' kitty, but the communication is more muddled. What's going on?
No, but before maybe I come to that one, probably for the benefit of our viewers and maybe to guide this debate, I would love Sarah to...
Can you answer my question and let me run the show?
Yeah,
yes.
Okay.
So answer my
it still goes, maybe she should shed more light on that one, that because there's been some communication to the effect that she's no longer part of State House. At least you all know, we had some people talking about it, and then she's still, probably she may still be there. Maybe she needs to clarify that to the viewers. But before we go into that one, there is what you talked about, the two incidents that happened this week.
Can you answer where the media center fits into this discussion?
Yeah, that's what
you have a Ministry of Information, Ugandan taxpayers are funding it. You have a media center, Ugandan taxpayers are funding it. You have communications people around the presidency, Ugandans are funding them. You have a senior presidential advisor on media. You have all these sorts of people. You have a presidential press unit. But the communication is so muddled. What is going on?
I'm coming to that one. One thing, and probably where I have to blame journalists and media practitioners in this country, is that they have failed to go to source for information from mainstream institutions like the media center to be their reliable sources of information, and they have rushed to social media. For example, the thing that is alleged to have come out on Sarah Kajingo's page. Journalists called my executive director of Fonopondo and asked him, what exactly is this one? And immediately he communicated back and even put on all social media platform and said, ignore the rumor surrounding. There is nothing like a cabinet reshuffle. I thought any serious journalist or serious media...
Isn't that exactly, Obed, where you have, as government communications people, you have a problem? The biggest circulation of this information was never in mainstream media. It was on social media. And Ugandans want to discuss what's happening either in social media or happening in mainstream media. If you're thinking in terms of mainstream media, I think you're not moving with the times. But let's pick this up after a short commercial break. We'll be right back. You're still watching The Fourth Estate, and we're discussing the controversy surrounding State House and President's Office, especially in terms of communication, largely on social media. What is going on? There seems to be a lot of intrigue around that office. Let me first seek the clarification, Obed, you talked about. Do you actually work for the presidency? We got communication that you were fired or you were never properly hired. You don't work for the president, do you?
Communication from who?
Tamale Mirundi is a presidential press secretary. He has been saying you were fired. I think Media Center said you no longer work there.
She has never worked in Media Center.
No, not in Media Center. Media Center communicating
That
information.
communication was from, I think, State House itself.
So, do you actually work for the president? And what is your job around the presidency?
Of course, for me, I was not appointed by Mr. Tamari Birundi, all the other colleagues involved in communications. I was appointed by the president to handle digital communications, to handle the social media, a unit that was not in State House before. And let's get this clarified, Charles.
So you draw a salary from the public service or president's office?
Oh, of course, all staff draw salaries from the public service. I have, however, never been paid, and I don't know why. What happened?
For how long?
For 2 years. When the president...
And you continue to wake up every morning and go to work?
Of course, I am
She's
ideological. The reason I did this before I was even employed, there are things I stand for. President Museveni has got impeccable Pan-African credentials. he's leading our country to a modern country, so I stand for those ones.
Can you clarify for our viewers, Sarah?
Yes.
You are not formally employed by President's Office or State House. Clarify for us. We talked about State House and President's Office. Which office do you belong to?
Charles, you see, there has been so many rumors, and I'm very disappointed. One of our administrators told the Observer that I was employed through the back door. But yes, this administration, because we must get this clear, the President is not an executive director of State House. He's not an administrator, but the President of the Republic of Uganda. State House enables him to execute his national duties. So when he makes a presidential appointment, what he does is make a directive that is communicated by the PPS, the controller of State House. And this he did, and it is in writing. But because of the fights and the intrigue around us, there are several cliques, unfortunately, our seniors, our administrators who should be guiding State House and not waste the time of the President, who should be allowed to concentrate on strategic issues. We have a President who is keen on generating more energy, who is thinking nuclear energy because it is it could be cheaper source of energy. So we should allow him to concentrate on those.
You can do the kalango for the President later. What we are interested in is you telling us and helping us unravel the intrigue that surrounds State House and government communication.
So what should be clear to everybody listening and watching this is that the President communicates in writing through his PPS, and in my case, and in all the other cases of the staff who work for State House, he did. So it is not upon me to formalize my employment. It is not upon the President to formalize employment of any staff. There are administrators supposed to do this, to communicate to public service. But
we'll come back to that.
Can I help you, Charles, on that?
Yes.
Let me conclude something. I wanted to conclude something, Charles. You're talking about probably how Media Center we're not doing our part, we're not assisting in...
No, government communications, we can't isolate it to the Media Center as a single institution, but the government communication is so muddled.
And probably us journalists, those who are in the game, we're also getting muddled by going against the traditional standards of doing journalism as a discipline. If Charles, let me ask you,
is your quarrel with journalists or with how you communicate government information? The Media Center was designed as a clearinghouse of government information.
Absolutely.
If you're not doing that, why do you blame journalists?
Yes, and in the case of the last cabinet reshuffle that never was, the first thing, and I'm happy journalists were calling, even myself, calling everybody at the Media Center, including my boss, who immediately...
I did speak to your boss.
Absolutely. How did he tell you? He even posted on his wall and all social media, said, ignore the rumor. There is nothing like a cabinet reshuffle. Sarah can testify.
He warned Charles.
Yeah, he warned me.
Exactly. Or any of us can testify, because probably we know how the presidency works. If the president has made his list of ministers or any what, he immediately, because that's no longer
Charles had also picked it from
from the NRM WhatsApp
he writes summary and gives his AD to route it to the members of the media.
What is the problem with the communication system?
Charles,
you're not answering that question.
let me help
You're blaming
Obed.
everybody.
But there was nothing to communicate about the reshuffle. That was never...
Yes. No, let me help Obed here. You see why the country was thrown into confusion. And we really must, I think most of our communications are behind. Most of the staff of government have not yet embraced the new media. Now, when you have an NRM official Facebook page verified with that blue tick, carrying a Hawks cabinet list the whole afternoon, and the deputy spokesperson of the National Resistance Movement chooses to blame Sarah Kajingo, who was online and clarified and said, please ignore this message, doing the rounds on WhatsApp and Facebook, and please do not the poor English used. You choose to use me as a scapegoat instead of explaining, instead of saying, you don't lose anything in being humble. say, I am sorry, and I'm glad he did this. Later he said that the staff, he communicated on Twitter, and he said that the staff who posted the cabinet list on the page of the National Resistance Movement was a sloppy one. He did so without consulting those above him. Now clearly, I can't be him. I am not a man. How did this list get onto the pages?
If you have a chief wipe or whip or something, yes, then you can have a she for a he.
but you see, so what the country, the explanation that the country needs is how do official NRM social media platforms carry a Hawks cabinet list, because this was really not one.
Actually, but that was not even an NRM matter.
You look at it was that's government. Why should it be communicated, Chris, on an NRM Facebook page?
You're listening to all this conversation and you're taking it in. The problem is bigger in my view, because we're playing with symptoms. Symptoms is WhatsApp, symptoms is Facebook, symptoms is Twitter. Symptoms is what Obed is complaining about, that journalists are not using the official communication channels, when government itself is using Twitter, WhatsApp, Facebook to communicate this information. For me, there is a fundamental problem that everybody is stepping on the other's toes to try and get some, I don't know what. I don't know what your investigations tell us about. Was this cabinet list actually completely fake? Was it something that the president had planned to do and then it leaked in the wrong way? Yeah, it could be happening. What have you found out?
You know, in 2006, I got a cabinet list. I can now say Museveni was in Kisos, writing down his ministers. At the time, I wanted to make Mutagambe vice president. So somehow, you know, he likes going to take people to his farm, which is a Ame farm, which has taken over.
No.
He's the commander-in-chief, but he has taken
over.
No,
there is the Ame farm, so, and there is his farm.
He took them around.
And it's called Kisos because he bought it from somebody.
Somehow.
Yes.
You're not a spokesman for
no,
the
he is.
I know you're trying to.
I was a president's lawyer.
I know
that. He's a private lawyer, so I know his
property. No doubt. I don't know why I wanted to buy where the army is specifically. There are many things that go there. So I got that list live and I published it. That's the first time I met General Kaihura. In Chibuli, they wanted to know the source. Kabushenga was in the media center. If he's listening, he said, Chris, he wants to know. I told him, to hell. For me, my work is published not to know. I don't even need to see the president because I published the story. I don't want. Then he take me to meet him because I have concerns from Buteso maybe. But because I published the story. So Kaihura was very angry in his office. I told him, sir, I know you actually, you know you're talking to a general. I said, yes, I know you're a general. And before you become a general, you must have hammered many enemies in the bush. So, I can as well be hammered, I don't care. He looked at me, called Kabushenga, said, take away this madman. I left Chibuli, I went to Kabushenga. I also refused. So there's possibility that things can leak. That's what I'm saying. But the main thing here is that we are dealing with a matter that deals with perception of a public office today. It's totally low. And all of this arises from that. A public office today is an avenue for aggrandizement. It is for theft. It is for deals. Unfortunately, the State House has become the center. And I kept telling you, in Uganda, if you want to chase anybody from Karamoja who's doing well, you trace them, you'll find that there is a connection to State House, either to an AD, or to the president, or to somebody sweeping State House. They get a protection like that. So now, the people working there look at new employees as a threat. That's why these ones are falling into problems. First of all, they had been designed a website, they wanted 600 million.
But Chris, you see, was the leaking of the fake cabinet list also a deal to make money?
No, but
I'm coming to that.
Could it have been a deal to knock someone out?
I'm coming to that.
If you leak a fake cabinet list,
then you blame
and you leak it on Saraka Jingo's wall, or maybe sign it as if she's the one who's signing it off.
Actually, this is what happened. The NRM, and I've said this before, the NRM official Facebook page had this list. There is a snapshot of it. This platform has been used for official party communications. I clarified. I said,
So
please ignore.
what I understand is
who runs that?
And I don't know.
You find the information on the Facebook
I think
wall.
I go online at 3 p.m. and I'm bombarded by all these questions to my Facebook inbox through WhatsApp, and several WhatsApp groups have this list and attributed to the official NRM Facebook page.
So what do you do?
As a responsible person, I call the principal private secretary of the president, who denies, and she says she's not aware. I go to my wall, copy this page, this information from the National Resistance Movement page, and I clarify, and it is still there. I have not deleted it.
Is it a fight around?
It is something
within the NRM,
it is something
around the presidency.
You see, first of all, the National
guys.
Resistance Movement Party Facebook page should not be communicating cabinet reshuffles that have not been communicated.
But this was the fact, they said. Was the page hacked into?
I do not know. I don't know who runs
she
it.
doesn't run it.
I wanted to conclude the thing as Hussein comes. Because I know when Hussein was so fell a victim. For this one, actually, the then PPS didn't want to see this man. I don't know what the problem was. The then PPS. I mean, like, Chairman didn't want to see this man, called him Hussein. And I used to see him, he used to drive his pyramid around. I said, but what's the problem? I think even he ended up in jail. Because the perception of public job under President Museveni is one, deal making. Two, the replacement of institutions with individuals, that individuals are institutions. Now, if you are going to State House without knowing which individual is an institution, they are going to crush you. So I told you, those working in State House are unable to leave their stamps, their headed paper, their documents open. And because what happens, you transact using Kashilingi. Because you know, security then will write a brief to the president and say, Kashilingi has been doing ABCD, and the Kashilingi is put in trouble.
You wanted to
all of that is because people are using a public office to attain their own.
Okay, I'm afraid because we need to take a quick break.
Yeah, I wanted to say, one is that this leaked cabinet list, there is anxiety. There is anxiety among members of the public. We have so many vacancies in cabinet, and so the public expects the president to make an announcement. Now, in this new age of communication, where the president is taking his time, some people seem to be moving ahead of him. Either they are prompting him and saying, please, we need you to do this, or what happens is that someone moves around with information and says, you know, so-and-so is going to be dropped from the list. So-and-so is going to be dropped from the list. Now, people have studied the body language, they've studied the president, they know how he works. President Museveni doesn't like to be predictable. So when he wants to appoint Chris Obore, Minister for Teso Affairs, and while the vetting process is still going on, while the vetting process is still going on, then someone leaks it. Maybe someone who doesn't like Chris. But they don't even know where the president is going to place Chris, because when the vetting is going on, they don't vet people for positions. They just clear you. How are you ideologically and all other things? Have you committed any crime? They vet generally. So after that has happened, he's going to appoint one ambassador, RDCs, ministers, many other things, advisors.
I'm told people use that to also make deals. They say,
of course, people, the cabinet list, of course people do. Of course people do. So what happens is, if somebody, in fact, for me, I told Ofono Pondo that I think the source of this leak is from cabinet itself. When I know that I may be dropped because I've not been handling myself well, and I know I'm likely to be dropped from cabinet, and I know President Museveni doesn't like to be predicted, then I can get this thing, I throw it to the public there, which shows that the president has made these changes. So when he's going to move, then he first backtracks. Okay. And I live another day as a minister.
I'm afraid we need to take a quick break. I received a phone call from someone who was linked to a person whose name appeared on the list, and they were excited and anxious, saying, is it true or not true? And
we are in things.
If someone can sit and draw an entire list of what they call cabinet and share it in the public, shortly after, we saw those leaks about the Minister for the Presidency, whom we discussed last week. Then we see the so-called death announcement, there must be something deeper, I mean, something more fundamentally wrong that we're not addressing.
Initially, State House was a preserve for Teremundu. But over time, Museveni is trying to open it up. And I can tell you, 2 of my sisters went there, Akelo. That one was set up to collapse before she even went. Amaju is not the PPS. Other than earning a salary, the PPS are different people. That's how dangerous that place is.
Let's take a break and pick this discussion up. I'm not quite sure whether we're making progress in unraveling what the problem is around the presidency of Yoweri Museveni and all this communication that is coming out, a lot of it fake. If they announce a cabinet on behalf of the president and the cabinet list is actually fake, there must be something wrong. Let me start with you, Hussein. Some people are saying, they're looking at the president saying his longevity in power is what is causing all this anxiety. He celebrated 29 years in power last week, and people asking, he's headed, this is 30th year in power, he's a sole candidate.
Still going.
Still going. If he is on the ballot for the NRM is retreating in Chankwanzi, the caucus is retreating in Chankwanzi. If he's on the ballot, or he will start, by February next year, he'll be going to start a run for 35 years in power. And the fighting seems to be centered either about his longevity or is failing to be controlled because the center is losing grip.
Charles, for me, I think the problem is there are several new players that have come on the political scene, people who are working for the president, and they have not taken time to study how the president works. Because I think if they invested some little bit of time to find out how the president works, some of these mistakes that we are witnessing would not be happening. It's basically a race for, they are competing for...
Are they mistakes in the first place?
Yes, we are committing many mistakes. There are so many mistakes.
Just wait a moment there. I'm thinking someone sits and plans, draws the cabinet, finds where to place which person, and releases that list in a manner they think, or on a platform they think is the most effective, to give it as wide publicity as possible before it is arrested. The mistakes you're talking about might be on arresting the information and correcting it.
Actually, for me, I'm addressing a bigger problem. I'm not just looking at the leaked or the fake cabinet list. I'm looking at...
Or the fake death announcement.
I'm looking at the wrangles that are going on right now. You see, you've been reading about Honorable Tumwebaze and Byandala, how they are exchanging words in the press. Then you have Sarah Kajingo and Tamale Mirundi. Then you have so all this is competition for the president's eye. That's what's happening. Now the problem is they expect the president to come out and rain on them and say, "You people, what is this?" And he will never do it. He has never done it and will not do it.
But does it thrive? People have accused, when there was a fight between Brigadier Henry Tumukunde and Nobo Mayombo at CMI,
yes, they
said that the president enjoys working like this. When maybe Kaihura is fighting with the boss at the ISO boss, they think the president, he thrives working. When people are fighting each other, he gets to have multiple sources of information, and therefore his position is secure.
That's an analysis that people make out of the experiences, out of what they have seen. But what I know for a fact is that the president never addresses those. He calls them distractions. He never addresses them. You see this conflict that is going on between Sarah and everything I'm reading about Edith Nakalema and so on. He will never address it because it's a distraction to him.
But
he doesn't.
What bigger distraction?
Just a moment, Sarah. Disagree over that. Yes. I really choose to disagree. Hussein, there should be a clear structure. It should be clear to all of us that if such matters are under contention, this is how they are adjudicated. Now, you see, we know, everybody here knows that this is a president who should be allowed time to handle the bigger picture, to handle strategy. So I think if we employed more competent people, because I do not, if you are a Bush war hero, you fought a wonderful Bush war, and yes, we salute you. We no longer have Bikwampolas hitting our houses in Masaka, and we like you very much, yes, Afande, Ndiyo sir. But if you cannot open your email, you cannot communicate using your email, then you should not have a say on how websites are run. I chose to resist because I conduct myself freely because I know the rule of law was returned. If you step on my feet with high-heeled shoes, you hit my phone down, you push me, and I have reported this, and this person is not reprimanded, and I choose to go to police, and police takes my statement, and I take witnesses, and the police surgeon has provided a report. There is it should be clear.
So you mean it's gone to the level where people come and stay for
Sarah, welcome to the world.
They stay for others. They
you
knock
see,
them.
Chris,
welcome to that world.
They try to push them out of cars and stuff like that.
I have been quiet. I have been quiet because there seems to be a view that if you say, if you report so and so to police, that person is so powerful, it's therefore misconduct on your part, and you should be investigated. They throw investigations that everybody reports of which you never know.
You filed a case.
Yes.
Just a moment,
Why
you filed the case. You filed the case.
I filed.
You reported to the police about Major Nakalema.
Yes, I did. This lady was harassing me, and not me alone. She hit me in the presence of others.
Hopefully not sexually.
No, of course. Of course not. And you see, there are so many others quiet.
Well,
she will shout at you, but you see, I had taken all this intrigue and kept quiet and chose, President Museveni guides us.
What this intrigue is the question I am asking.
You see,
no one is answering that question.
Charles, let me answer this first. The code of conduct of UPDF. Look at Kano Sabit, very disciplined. He's a kind of.
No, my question is,
look
what is driving the intrigue?
Look at General Katumba Wamala.
Can you help me with an answer?
It is very
what's
clear.
driving this intrigue?
The answer was offered by Kashirinji. He told you in very clear terms that once there is a Paris, you always have such things. Even at these politicians trying to outdo each other before the president, that's a common story. I'm told even in the 80s, there are times they would want
it in. Sarah's complaint is
the president has always reined in, yes. And certainly he will also rein in on that issue. But let me add on something a little bit. Will come to you, which seems to be a personal problem. I was looking at this whole thing of miscommunication, and I'm sorry, I'll call it social anarchy. That is currently now getting hold of us. I think the biggest problem is that we failed to harness new media and probably see how smart we can come out minus going berserk. My friend here, Chris Obore, I remember one time.
Job at Media Center.
Oh, I can't control social media. Maybe it will require certain things, maybe legislation by Ghana Communications Commission and whatever. I remember correctly, Chris Obore, something was posted on his wall. It was something, something
about Banyarwana
and whatever. And I remember meeting him and I was like, oh, Chris, can you post such stuff? And honestly, he told me, look, someone hacked into his account and posted that piece. Now, I think that would call for much more critical thinking in this aspect of new media, and we see how best can we harness it to get...
Let me ask the question I asked to Hussein. Chris, then I'll come to you. Let me ask the same question I asked. Is the center failing to hold?
Not at all, not at all. I'm telling you all this excitement of this communication, especially on Facebook and Twitter and whatever. That is an excitement of a new form of communication. And me personally, if you asked me, probably we need to do critical thinking and see how can we gain this as a new communication so that people are not...
that's the gap she was trying to fill, and now she's being...
No, she was enhancing...
No, the people stepping on her toes, the people physically stepping on her are not stepping on her because of social media. I mean, it's not WhatsApp that's stepping.
No, those are operational issues.
Okay. Chris, you wanted to come in?
Yeah. You see, you're blaming longevity.
I'm asking the question. I'm not blaming.
Yeah,
I'm
I don't think
question.
longevity is responsible. This is just the character of President Museveni. And you see, the children of the revolution have believed that theirs was a revolution. What happened was a military takeover of government. But carefully, they have been able to call us, we revolutionize the country, we change it. It is not. It has remained military in approach. And it has now affected all layers of government. Let me tell you, what's happening to Sarah, to whoever in the State House, happens in Chikubo shop, happens in a restaurant, happens in a bank, happens everywhere. So that is now, it's called a political culture. That when it comes from up, that is how President Museveni has designed himself to rule. Now all institutions are reflecting the beliefs and the colors of the leader. Many Ugandans who are working today are working under duress. In fact, that's why I told you, we were saying, competence and qualifications are two different things. There are many qualified people, but incompetent, placed in two jobs. Why? Because in addition to just a qualification, they are very great bootlickers. And they are very good blackmailers. They want to rise. And when they rise, because of their incompetence, they want to blame those who are competent below them. Get them out, kick them out, so that their incompetence translates into a competence, that they are there. So in terms of Museveni uses chaos as an instrument of management. No. So when this chaos, hold on, Sarah, I listen. No. When you look at his ways, carefully he says, those are distractions. They're not distractions. He knows, fine, let my fools fight. They all bring me reports. Soldiers, generals are fighting each other.
Perhaps it's work. It's 29 years uninterrupted.
Works for him to hold on to power. Dangerous for the country. Now, this one, a child of the revolution, he's crying. Welcome board to us who have cried for long. Continue crying. So, Charles, the point is, if we don't...
You use the example of the military. The military follows command and control.
Because there is enforced discipline.
Yes. And
let me tell you, President Museveni can call a captain in the barracks and forego a cannon. That's how you operate, my friend. So, Sarah,
in the army, they use
if you don't, that's the military command should be coming down. For him, even he ignores his own generals. And they generate rumors as a means to catch his eye. Why would I want to catch Museveni's eye if Mulago Hospital is working?
Okay.
Why would I want to catch his eye if I know schools are operating well? So this piece of catching the eye is an opportunistic blackmailer and a corrupt tendency that Museveni is perpetrating.
Thank you.
But the other thing is, in the State House, what I know, by the way, I met Edith Nakalema once. It was a function. I've been hearing about her. She's a very decent woman. When you look at her, I'm surprised at what is coming out. She's really decent. But I am told the State House run by 3N. Nalwezo, Nachobe, Nakalema.
Who told you?
Cross end of those. I'm a journalist. Don't ask me, Charles. If you dare cross any of those, my friend, you're finished. Even generals, ministers will tell you, that's how bad it is. A minister fears those other kind of people. But generally, Obed, you need to help the country. Because if you don't do that, social media now, which has been used, has no control. Today's damaging Sarah, it will not damage Hussein, it will not damage anybody else.
It was on you.
And if the wars online get to offline, it will be difficult to stop.
Okay, thank you, Chris. I have 3 minutes to go, so I'm going to distribute them between the three of you guys, starting with Hussein. How do you see this getting resolved? The NRM is the NRM caucus is retreating in Chankwanzi. I was told there was another, like happened in February last year, another February a year later. Someone is going to come up with some resolution and then say the president, rein in your people and control them so that we can move ahead with our projects.
Well,
how does this end?
It's a caucus. It's an organ of NRM, whatever they decide to do there is
No, I'm talking about the infighting around State House.
the infighting. What I can tell Sarah specifically, my sister, because I have this information, I don't know whether it's true, that you have not regularized your employment.
And it's not up to me to regularize.
No, what I'm saying, because what happened, I need to give this information. What happens is the president, after he has identified somebody, then you go through the process. So you're vetted by SFC, by Special Forces, or PGB as it were. Then after you've been cleared, then your name is forwarded to public service. Public service sits and makes a minute looking at your competencies. They make a minute and then they write back to say this is the position. After they have done that, then the president, what the president does is not an appointment. There is no one who has a letter of appointment from the president. The president signs what they call consent to appointment. So he consents that I am consent, because this is his private office. It is his home. Therefore, public service must get it from him that I want Sarah to work for me.
So is his home.
No, it's not. No, State House is his home.
No,
I'm talking about the president.
Can I clarify that?
Let me just finish it.
Can I just clarify that for Chris and our viewers?
Yeah.
The White House, the United States,
Yes.
has the West Wing and the East Wing.
Yes.
The West Wing is where the president does his work.
Yeah.
The East Wing is where he lives, but they are part of the same institution,
Yes.
and that is his home.
And they have staff.
For the duration,
given by the public.
no, for the duration of
That
his
is in
presidency,
power. Yes.
that is in power.
So it's a
That
public
is his
place.
home. It's a private,
Yeah, no.
because he has a
We
private.
have given him where to sleep.
Yes,
Yes.
he has a private.
The car you drive is a public car.
Chris, let him.
Okay.
Yes, but let me
It's a
finish it.
procedure. It's
So yeah, this is the procedure. So once the president has consented to your appointment, then now it is then now they communicate to you, the person,
in writing.
like Sarah. The accounting office of State House, for example, that is if Sarah is in State House, the accounting officer is the controller. Now the controller communicates to the person appointed. You have been offered employment in State House as a communications assistant to the president upon the following terms. Okay? If you accept, please,
Right back.
write back and let us know.
Hussein, have
Okay.
you heard of...
I'm coming to- no. Hold
Have
it.
you heard
I
of-
have 1 minute for each of you. Hussein has used 2 minutes, but so I'm going to cut that.
No,
there.
I want to
You have one- you have 1 minute. No.
Have you heard of defiance of presidential directives?
Can you use your minute when it comes? Can you use yours? You're going to use 30 seconds because I need to save another 30 for Sarah.
To answer, because her
To
source
answer the
seems to
question
be
of
very,
that, yes.
wrong.
At them time.
No, honestly, what I can say, and me, I restrict my debate on the sort of mayhem that seems to be taking place around the communication, especially of government and probably the presidency. That what we need to do is to reinforce, and probably we need to design a program to reinforce and make it very clear that for every communication from the that concerns the president or government, these are the offices. Not probably Sarah Kajingo, in my view, now seems
The
to be very
government
good.
has spokespeople, it has a media center, it has a ministry of
And
information.
absolutely,
It has
this is
what
what I'm saying.
Another institution?
But no, not reinforcing, because even what probably my boss said seemed not to have.
I think Obed is saying there must be one clear channel
one
of
clear, and
communication.
probably we shall reinforce that one. But like I've said,
And probably wants it to be media
And, and you cannot make that appeal to the public. No. You can't. That's an internal government communication. I'm afraid your time is out.
So you have to put it through you.
absolutely, now that's how I would want
Sarah,
it.
Yes.
my opinion, my
The
view is that
confusion will not
the
stop.
problem is not your regularization of your employment. The question is, how do you have all these false communications coming out and you are the center of them?
You see,
You have 30 seconds.
yes, I've been unlucky because I used social media for presidential communications and it has never been done before. Many of my colleagues,
You are breaking ground.
yes, we're not happy about it. But what surprises me is, like, the intrigue. They will send a message clearly from a different number and append your name, and they hope to use that as evidence against you for causing confusion. You're leaking cabinet list. First of all, this is not a leaked cabinet list.
It's a
There
fake
was
cabinet
never
list.
a reshuffle. You have announced Honorable Byandala's death So
He has
therefore,
not died.
yes, it should reinforce the idea that they should have you out and allow them work. But you see, it is also indecent. I find myself in a very funny position where colleagues are communicating my sacking, which has never been communicated to me, and they seem to portray me as a person who is so indecent that I super glue on unemployment, so indecent that I sneak, yet I sneak into State House, yet I had guests. And this is done by interesting
and you carry a State House ID?
Yes, I do. And the president has advised me because I've never had peace.
He has advised you?
He has advised me from a long time ago to ignore them and do my work, which I have done.
Our time is out. I'm afraid Chris,
why isn't the Minister President strong? State House is stronger than the Minister President.
Our time is out.
Yes, but the governance in the State
Our time
House.
is out. We didn't have an opportunity to either ask...
They are eating pledges by the president. I'm telling you,
can we have some control here?
People in Toro, they have pledges, they eat them.
Sorry. We got to end the show. We haven't had opportunity to have Major Nakalema speak for herself because her name has been mentioned a few times. We also have not had opportunity to raise Tamale Mirundi because
she's a soldier. She needs the
clearance.
Commander-in-Chief, the CDF to give her clearance.
With Mr. Tamale Mirundi. Interestingly, he has always supported me. He supports everything.
You have had him supporting you on radio?
Yes, he did actually say, and it is on record, that those fighting me are mafia who were handling websites. But now I'm surprised.
But now he says you are not a staff.
Yes, he's even saying that I am undermining the president with honorable Baba.
Okay. Our time is out.
These are super wars.
Our time is out. We need to get out of here. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you very much, Sarah, for making time for the show.
Thank you.
Thank you very much to you also joining us. Like Chris said as we started the show, the story is still ongoing and we will explore it as
more
deeper.
Off air.
Yes, more off air, and of course, when we have opportunity to discuss with you, we'll bring it to this platform.
Don't joke with chicken.
Have a good night.